You want to do the kickoff for our partnership episode with StarStock here?
Let's get ready to rumble. Am I allowed to say that? That's probably like trademarked, right? Somebody says that, right? One of the Buffer dudes. The
I
other
have no
Buffer
problem
dude.
with it.
So that's Michael Buffer says that. But he has a brother, Bruce Buffer. He's like the Fredo of the Buffer family. And he has a saying too. It's called "It's time." That's what he says in the UFC. Bruce Buffer's the UFC guy. He's an interesting character. So yeah, but it's time. It's time for StarStock, man. Let's get ready to rumble. I just used both of the Buffer's sayings in one thing. Listen, guys.
Cage, how'd you get your name, Cage Lawyer?
I was
You
born
want
with
to go
it.
down memory lane?
I was born with it. This is my mommy and my daddy decided to, put it on my birth certificate. But no, I mean, listen, how did I get it? I think I don't know. I have no idea. It's like the Fire Blaster. Some people give themselves their own nicknames, and it doesn't matter because it's totally tubular. Doesn't matter who gave the nickname. By the way, Pixels, for those of you guys who haven't seen that Sandler movie. Very underrated Adam Sandler movie. Go ahead and check out Pixels. Yeah, man. I mean, it was about MMA cards. It was about, doing MMA stuff. And, I think I've talked about this. It was one of those things, like a business that I was thinking about doing. It was I don't want to call it the early days of the UFC because the UFC was around in 1993. Went through a whole bunch of changes, uniform rules, all kinds of fun stuff. But way before Reebok, you're talking about 2008, 2009, 2010, like in that area, sponsorships were huge for fighters, and you were able to get whoever you want on your trunks. It was almost like I said, like NASCAR, and it wasn't Reebok, it wasn't just Monster Energy. It was you could go out and get your own sponsorship, and most fighters, this is not an exaggeration, but most fighters got more from their sponsorships than they got to show up in the fights and actually fight the fight than their fight contract. Because the fighters don't make a lot of money. You fight the big fights, contracts for like championships and whatnot, or you get up there and top 10 fighters, fine. But the undercard fighters and people who are making their way in the fights, they post the purses. You could see a lot of them like 10,000, 18,000 to show, another 18,000 bonus to win, like that kind of stuff. Like, there's it's not a huge amount of money, and people will pay that to be on the fighter shorts, to be on they have like a little like banner that they put up in their corner when they announce them and stuff. I know lawyers. My friend Andrew Vasiri, he sponsored many fighters with his law firm. You see him. We were always looking for it on Topps cards. Like, hey, did you make it onto a card? Because that would be pretty cool. Somebody's fighting and the picture's on there. So anyway, sometimes sponsors didn't pay the fighters. So we try to help out fighters. I was in touch with a lot of fighters to try to, recover sponsorship money for them. There were also issues where fighters in smaller promotions would win a couple of big fights and want to get out of their contract so that they can go into another promotion. So they would reach out to, myself and a friend or two of mine. And we just said, you know what, let's start this up. See if we can take it somewhere. And, even grandiose thoughts of maybe helping them unionize, having like a fighters union. But life happened. I think my daughter was born. I took a more desk job. And, the Cage Lawyer Twitter remained, but the Cage, and also Reebok. I mean, once Reebok happened, then, people just got their share of the Reebok sponsorship money and stuff. And nobody really was getting sponsors from local law firms. And I'll never forget. Tyron Woodley was sponsored by a product called Dude Wipes. Legit, like take a look at Tyron Woodley.
You've been an OG UFC fan. You've been kind of a fan since the first days.
Well, listen, that's like 2009. But yes, I watched the UFC. I had a cable box, one of those like fancy Brooklyn cable boxes where somehow the stuff was on there. I don't know where it came from, but I was a minor at the time, so don't hold it against me. But yeah, I watched UFC 1. Like I watched Hoist Gracie fight. He was in a bunch of the first ones.
What do you think they've done so well as a brand? Because if you look at UFC, sometimes we fail to realize they're just a baby of a brand.
Yeah.
They've been around for 15 years, maybe just a little bit less.
Yes,
so what do you think they've done?
Almost 30. 93 they started. 1993.
93. Wow, I had no idea. What do you think they've done well?
They promote their guys. right? So that's the biggest thing for sports organization. When somebody is big, they promote them. And '93, it was great, but for a while there, it was dying down. That was when Dana White and the Fertitta brothers came in and kind of rescued it. And trust me, they've gotten their money back in spades since then. But the guys at the time were Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, and they put them front and center on posters. They promoted their fights. They promoted like a rivalry between them. Randy Couture was a big name then, and then Rampage Jackson became a big name for the promotion. And they advertised them. They held them up. Think about it. Think about it just in more recent stuff. Most people who are UFC fans, casual fans, they can't name the roster of fighters. You can't name a lineup of fighters. Even though a UFC event is on, people can sometimes not even name anyone who's in the thing unless it's a big championship fight. There was a UFC event on last Saturday. I bet you the majority of UFC quote unquote fans can't even name half the fighters, right? I mean, Cody Garbrandt was like the big name. You probably never even heard of him. No love. So the fun part of that is everyone knows Ronda Rousey, right? Everyone knows Conor McGregor, right? You've even started to hear about some of these, like Izzy Adesanya, or Ngannou, like, the heavyweight champ now. You've heard of Stipe Miocic, right? He's got the Modelo commercial, which a lot of UFC fighters now have. I think Amanda Nunes had it. They've done a very good job of promoting their guy when they are at the top of their game. George St. Pierre was huge for a while there. And they promote those guys. And that is a huge thing for a sports promotion, right? You can ride your horses, right? Ride your horses. So MLB should learn that. Think of the horses the MLB has right now.
They definitely should. So StarStock, guys. This is the last week of the Spring Slabs offer. So I took advantage of it. I think you guys should as well. If you submit 25 slabs or more, you get 12. You get $10, $12 back for shipping. 50 slabs, you get a $30 bonus credit. 75 slabs, 60. 100 slabs, $100 bonus credit. And I would think that this is a great idea to do for some of your lower end slabs that have lost a lot of value. Instead of selling them at pennies on the dollar, send them to StarStock, hold them, and maybe sell them into the hype of next season with NBA and NFL. I expect things to pick back up in August. Cage, anything you want to talk about today on this episode? You want to go through the data?
That's a great promotion. No better time to send stuff in than now. Send them in yesterday. And I can't tell you how many times I've been talking to Andrew and I'm like, I wish I sent this in a week ago. I wish I sent this in 2 weeks ago. Because it's better to just have it in, right? Like I have Trae Young cards sitting around, and I say, I wish I sent that in a week ago. I wish it was in there right now, right? Because I have Trae cards that I want to sell. I do. I have Trae cards that I want to sell, right? Because I think you're selling into strength now. He had that big win. I think he's going to have a good series, right? But if I sell him on eBay, what's going to happen, guys? If he loses this series or the next one, it's going to get returned, right? But if it's in StarStock's right now, if it's in StarStock's account, right? If somebody buys my card, that's it. Instant transfer ship. Done. Yeah. And you know what? If he wins a championship, good on the person who bought it from me, right? Because they're going to get it cheap right now. But if he happens to get knocked out, fine. I'm not getting it returned. It's a huge thing. Huge.
You know what I realized? So I went to a Top Shot post and I've looked at all the comments and people were hating on the fact that the recent packs were negative EV. Mm-hmm. And I think what are the benefits about StarStock, but what are the things that in this kind of culture of instant gratification is StarStock isn't an instant gratification platform. StarStock is a platform you need to use, you need to learn, and the more you use it, the more reward you get. Versus if you look at, some of the platforms of the past, let's look at Top Shot. The reason people loved it is because in a matter of seconds, they could buy a pack, open it, and sell it for $500. And I think we're in this really instant gratification version of society where you buy Dogecoin for 5 cents and then you sell it for 65 cents in a span of weeks. Crypto, you're in and out. You're buying into altcoins. You're buying into NFTs and flipping them. You're opening Top Shot packs. And I think our audience is different. I really do. And I think it's sometimes it would behoove you guys to start thinking long-term, 3-6 months down the road and setting yourself up for success. And there's a variety of ways to do that, but it was just something I was thinking a lot about in how much short-term thinking there is right now in the current environment.
Listen, you're 100% right, and it is one of those things that Top Shot has to fix. It's one of those fun things that that is going on, right? So I say baseball's got to, they should ride their horses. Did you notice this week in the data that we got from StarStock, baseball's over 50% of the platform? The sales breakdown, it's up to 54% baseball sales. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't. It's what surprises me is that the only two top performers are Gleyber Torres and Shohei Ohtani. Well, it surprises me how many guys are down across the board. I don't know how Torres is on the top and worst performers. That's got to be a glitch. but guys like Kyle Lewis and Vlad Guerrero both down week over week. But no, I mean baseball's where the action's at. But remember, this is last week's result. So this is the last week in the NBA. It was before the playoffs started. I do expect NBA to get a lot more traction in these next weeks.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would expect the same. It's funny, and it's borne out by it, right? So the top 5 teams by sales, the number 1 team in sales is the Memphis Grizzlies, right? So look what happened, right? I mean, they won their games, right? They survived their play-in games, 2 of them, and they won game 1 of the first round of the playoffs here. And all of a sudden, let's get on Ja. Let's get on.
I don't think it's just Ja. I think people are buying Dylan Brooks. I think they're buying Grayson Allen. I think they're buying Jaren Jackson Jr.
I think you're right, but Ja was the number 2 player by sales value behind Shohei Ohtani this week. So, he's definitely being bought. But you're right. I think they're buying more people than just him. And
Ja's had a couple good games. Ja's strung together a couple good games. I'm interested. Do you think we're going to see another 8-1 upset here? Do you think the Grizzlies take out the Jazz?
I don't know. It might be we talked about the 8-1 upsets, and I talked about the Knicks when I did it. But I remember somebody was injured in that, and they came back. So like the 8 seed wasn't like a true 8 seed. Like I don't know, it was Allen Houston or Latrell Sprewell. One of those guys came back, and that team was like they were like a 1 or 2 seed the year before. And the reason why they were 8 is because they weren't healthy until the playoffs. It's kind of working it backwards here, right? I mean, Donovan Mitchell's not there. So, I mean, that was a 1 seed with a healthy Donovan Mitchell. You don't have Donovan Mitchell. Eventually I'm sure he's going to come back because, you can't you can't let them beat you without him, right? I mean, he's already announced that he wants to play, right? So I would imagine we got to have to see him, especially if they go down 2-0. You got to figure they're going to play him, right? He's got to come out and do something. But yeah,
why do you think we're seeing? I mean, that's an irrelevant question. We're seeing these ankle sprains that are like 2-month, 3-month injuries. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, have you played soccer? You ever sprained your ankle really bad?
Yeah, I mean, I always thought like I recovered in 4 weeks, but if I had really good care, I could get back at 2.
Well, I'm sure these guys have great care, but I mean,
I know, right?
You know what I think about it, right? And look, if you're a baseball fan, right? I think part of it is like, people like, oh, they're throwing the ball harder now, they're swinging harder now. What are all these injuries? And I think basically what you're seeing is these people, they're pushing themselves to the limit of physical capabilities. You got this, what's his name, Jordan Hicks, Aroldis Chapman throwing the ball 104 miles an hour. Eventually physics kicks in and you can't do that and you break. You know what I mean? Same thing. Like Ja, LeBron, I mean, whoever it is that has these ankle sprains, like they are going full tilt. Like they are pushing the limits of what the human body is supposed to do. And when they come down after jumping as high as they jump, or running as fast as they run, or with somebody, another professional athlete of whatever size coming down on them, it's gonna be a problem more so than just me spraining an ankle playing basketball in my driveway. I mean, Chris Paul, look, his own teammate hit him in the shoulder, right? Didn't look like much. But obviously, that's a huge guy hitting another huge guy, in the shoulder. I mean, so I almost want to give him sort of a pass on it. But the flip side to that, I forget who it was who sent me a picture of it, but like they showed a picture of what's the dude's name on the Mets who got hit in the face with a fastball, and they showed
Pilar.
It was a side-by-side Pilar and LeBron. It was like hitting the face with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball down on the ground for 36 seconds. Poked in the eye, down on the ground for 80 seconds. It was like LeBron. I was like, oh man, we can't post that. People think we're LeBron haters already. But yeah, I mean, look, injuries. It's an interesting thing, man, because I always said coming into this years ago, be careful with football. Because football is a full contact sport, right? And football gets nuts, and you don't want to have all your eggs in a football player because they get hurt, and it's really risky. They get hurt, right? And you're gonna lose you lose your guy in football. Well, baseball, look at the injuries in baseball right now, right? Trout is out for 2 months. Tatis was hurt for a while. Eloy Jimenez is hurt. Lubob is hurt. I mean, it's just the laundry list is just, it's never ending. And that's baseball, right? Basketball got the same thing. It seems like everybody's hurt all the time. A lot of ankle sprains. I mean, look, Donovan Mitchell, you name it.
Do you think Anthony Davis is healthy?
Do I think Anthony Davis is healthy?
Like, I would be a little bit worried holding Anthony Davis cards because there was a time and place where people said, is he even more valuable to the Lakers than LeBron? And, he could put up some huge numbers. But since he's been back, he hasn't looked right. And a calf strain, that's a tough injury to come back from when you don't get the proper healing. Are you worried about Anthony Davis at all?
So what I will say is I was surprised, and I said it during the game a couple times to Ian. I was like, Ayton is clowning the big man of the Lakers. You know what I mean? Part of what I thought the Lakers' biggest, strength was going to be, you got Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond. Drummond, like I said, just leave him on the bench. I don't know what that guy's doing out there. And I was a Drummond fan, man. That was one of the first
guys. You
I
love
graded.
Andre Drummond.
I mean, I was buying as many of his 2012 Prisms as I could find for $2 each. Those were his crazy.
$2.
I graded them all myself. But
should we create a segment $2 corner, but with Cage? Because you love those $2 bid. You love those.
There's no more $2.
Bids.
Nothing's $2 anymore. And even if you buy it, where am I? $2.
Top Shot moments are $2.
So yeah, Top Shot moments are $1. So yeah, we could do it. But the point is, Ayton, man. I mean, that's, some people will argue, a future Hall of Famer right there, Anthony Davis, right? I mean, and Ayton is making him look silly. So you're right. Maybe he's not healthy.
Let's keep going through the data. Who is Spencer Turnbull? Top 5 players by sales count. Spencer Turnbull and then Bubba Starling. Did not even know who these guys are. Are these Wall Street brokers? Are these Morgan Stanley guys? Are they on the PGA Tour?
It sounds like it, right? So Spencer Turnbull is a pitcher, right? He's a pitcher, and but it sounds like Spencer Turnbull. You could expect to see like Spencer Turnbull the third, right? So but Turnbull, he's I'm pretty sure he's the guy who threw the no-hitter, right? For the Tigers, right? I think.
Yes, you are right. You are right. And Tony La Russa came out and said, this has been happening for the game for a long time. Like, this has been 25 years in the making, where the 3-run home run is the main thing and the no-hitter is making the game a little bit boring. You have any thoughts on that take?
I said,
you agree?
I've said that on prior episodes. The 3-run home run. I definitely have said that, and it's not from me. I mean, that's like that's the baseball thing, right? That is the baseball deal. That's how it's become. People are like, oh, the 3-run home run, you got to get on base and then hit the home run, a bloop and a blast, and I mean, so what do I say about it? I say baseball's boring now. I really do. I say we've talked about this also. Baseball was boring before, but I actually was a baseball fan. They're making it too pitcher friendly, and what's odd about it though, and let me make the point and then change the point, because this is what I do, right? Batting average is down across the board. It's crazy. Batting average is terrible, and you're seeing more no-hitters, right? Which means what? It's a strikeout versus home run kind of thing. But the other day, I forget what day it was. Maybe it was Saturday. Maybe it was Friday. Ian showed me my ESPN app on my phone, and he's like, "Look at this. Look at all the games." And it seemed like every game, one of the teams scored at least 8 runs. Like, every score was crooked, right? It was like 10-8. One of them was like, "Oh, Detroit scored 8 runs." Yeah, but they lost because the other team scored 11. So it's very weird because what?
And the Braves won because they scored 21.
The Braves scored 21. So I mean, we were basically like looking at it like, I can't really argue that offense is down when you look across the board on a day like that, and there's 3,000 runs scored. So it's an all or nothing game. Baseball has now become an all or nothing game. It is someone's going up there to strike out or hit a home run. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's rare the DJ LeMahieu's of the world who are like, okay, I'm gonna take what the pitcher gives me now, and I'm gonna go the other way with it. I'm gonna hit a single, I'm gonna hit a double, I'm gonna slap the ball around, I'm gonna bunt for a hit.
So you guys know I'm an NBA guy, but I always want to come on here and add value. And here's a kind of a value strategy that I would look at. So 2 things are working in favor. First, in my opinion, the first 2 months of the season when batters are seeing the pitcher for the first time, the advantage goes to the pitcher. When you see a pitcher or you see tape on a pitcher for the second, third, fourth, fifth time, you know the stuff that he has. You know the pitches that he has, and you come to that game prepared. So 1. 2, we all know that hotter weather means more home runs. So I actually think that these two factors, take a look at guys that are home run hitters, okay? Because I think June, July, we're going to see a little bit of called a regression to the mean, right? Like Cage said, there's been way more no-hitters. There's been batting averages down. I don't know about home runs, but people aren't hitting the ball well. I think we're going to see a regression to the mean in the month of June and July. And take a look at a few home run hitters, whether that's Pete Alonso on the Mets. Cage, I don't know if you have a few guys that stick out to you, but I think hitters have been a little bit oversold, especially kind of the second, third tier that are not the Tatis, Soto, Acuna. Everyone knows those guys. The second, third tier guys that can mash and do, put up 10, 11 home runs in a month. Yep. I think those guys are going to I think that's going to happen in June, July.
We gave Glaber as a pick about a week and a half ago, right? We talked about Glaber Torres, and he's brought his average up like 100 points since we gave him a pick. He was under 200. Last I looked, he was batting like 283 or something like that. And just gets multiple hits every game, right? But it's funny. The Boppers are hitting their home runs, man. Before Chalk got injured, he was having like the best season of his career. Vlad Guerrero hit when we recorded the other day, and I said, hey, Vlad Guerrero, it was yesterday. I said he hit a home run. He hit another one in that game. He hit 2. I mean, Shohei Ohtani's hitting home runs. Tatis missed some time, and he's hitting home runs. Acuna's hitting home runs. I mean, the people who are hitting home runs are there. A name that I would look at because he's kind of been beaten down a little bit, and it's a fun if you want to talk about paper versus chrome. Juan Soto, he's kind of fallen off there, and even the guys who haven't fallen off, like Tatis, is not having an MVP season the way he was during the shortened beginning of last season. He's not the MVP right now in the National League. There's so many other people who you would name ahead of him for MVP. But he's still having a very good season, especially missing time. So his home run numbers are not the snuff. But if you did like the typical Andrew PER per 36 minutes, if you did, his average out, he'd be at the top, right? If he didn't miss those 2 weeks because he was injured there, right? So his cards have really come down. Tatis's cards have come down. Like, it's a very weird situation that we're in now, where if it's not the guy, I mean, look, you don't even know the pitcher's name, right? You don't know Spencer Turnbull's name, right? But people are buying him like crazy because he had a no-hitter, right? Well, that's probably going to come down. No offense to the people who are buying it, unless he goes out there and has another no-hitter or continues that. That probably is going to come down. People are buying after the news. It's kind of odd. But look, that's where we live now. I would say Soto is one that's definitely a candidate to put up some big numbers. His cards have come down a little bit, especially the paper, as opposed to the chrome. And, yeah, man, I mean, Aaron Judge is playing well. You can't have him. If you're a Yankee guy, Giancarlo Stanton's been out for a little while. I'm sure he'll come back, and he'll probably have one of those weeks where he hits, 10 home runs in a week, and everybody's going to be chasing his cards for that 1 week. He'll have 1 week during the season where he'll make you some money,
Baseball's where you buy the dip. It's where you buy the dip, in my opinion, of proven players, where there's a regression to the mean. It kind of happens year over year. Let's talk NBA. Robert Williams, I mean, he looks like he's going to be the real thing for the Celtics, and the numbers reflect that. He's up 57% week over week. Someone to take a look at. Luka's is down 32%, but John Collins is down 55%, and I expect that to bounce back. I think this Knicks-Hawks series is going to be a long one. I don't know who gets through, but John Collins looks like he's back in his normal form, and he's down 55% week over week.
Yeah, he's one of those dead cat bounce opportunities.
Yep.
Right? I'd be looking at his stuff right now only because it's just going to take one playoff game where he does something good, like Williams did with his 9 blocks. It's crazy, and those are headline attention grabbing things. So the Celtics, I feel like during the course of the year, because the Celtics had so many young guys, and because of the injuries and people out with COVID protocol and all that stuff, that there's been a Celtic rook, a different person at the top of that list or on that top performer list, like 8 times during the year. Whether it was Grant Williams, whether it was Robert Williams, whether it was Peyton Pritchard, who was my pick. You got to figure one of these guys is going to show up and show out, right? So it's fun to see that. I would look for more of a sustainable thing for that, like Mikal Bridges, right? Like, he's not the name that people are saying now on the Suns. Now, I watch those games. People are talking about Booker. People are talking about Chris Paul. They're not talking about Mikal Bridges. But that's the kind of guy who shows up and hits a game winner, and people want his cards. You know what I mean? Same thing, R.J. Barrett, right? People are not talking about Barrett on the Knicks. No, they were talking about Alec Burks. By the way, I know it's going to be a couple days from now, but when we do this episode next week, people are going to be buying Alec Burks cards, right? Because he had a heck of a game in Game 1. Showed up kind of out of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, the worst performers, Luka down 32%. Is that just normal because the market's going down kind of stuff, or what? Talk to me about that, because I want to hear your take, the Coach Goldberg take about Luka.
I would buy Luka. You guys know I love Luka, but it's hard with the pop. I'm not even going to go that route, but I think he's just down because his cards are down, Cage. His cards were 1,500, then they went to 1,100. Now they're 850, 900 for the Prism PSA 10. So I just think that's what it's reflected. It's literally almost identical to the movement. I think we're going to start to see headlines when the Mavs go up 2-0 against this Clippers team. Is it time to break up the Clippers? What's wrong with the Clippers?
Well, what is there to break up? You mean get rid of Kawhi or Paul George? I mean, what's break up? They got two decent guys, right?
Well, I mean, they gave Luke Kennard like 80 million over 4 years. They gave him a massive contract. They felt that this was the year that they kind of put the pieces together and they won a championship. They put that team together for a championship. You think that what are they going to keep building around, I guess, is my question.
The Mets are paying Bobby Bonilla still. Just because you pay somebody doesn't mean they're good.
I am aware. So if the Clippers lose a series, it's not a big deal?
No, it is. I was the one who said this week that the Clippers are the team with the most pressure on them. But breaking them up is a different thing. Yes, if Dallas goes up 2-0, look, who does that detriment more? You tell me. Does that hurt Kawhi or Paul George more? Because Kawhi's done it twice, right? Kawhi's done it twice. One time you could say he was the man. The other time he wasn't the man. But both times he was the MVP in the finals. Has his legacy been cemented, sort of? Or does this actually tarnish it a bit? Because, he went there, to build the team up. And it's not the Lakers who are taking him out this year, is it? I don't think.
You remember that year when Kawhi didn't even play? As much as people tried to, get him to talk and, have bad press, it's really hard. It's really hard to have bad press about Kawhi because he doesn't respond. So, it's kind of like talking to silence. So I do think it actually Kawhi to me seems less and less like a number one the more I watch him play. But that could change. It's just one game. So I don't have a certain take on it. You could see I'm a little bit sometimes I come on here and I'm like definitive. This, and this. Sometimes you got to let the games play out and watch the market. So I don't know. But I do think that if the Mavs beat the Clippers, that's a big win under Luka's belt because I don't believe that Luka has playoff series win yet. So yes, I do believe that. And I think this Mavs team is actually hot. They're one of the best teams since April. I think they're 19-8 or something like that. So if they make a deep run, I'm interested to look at what's going to happen with Luka cards. Even though there's a lot of supply, you can't there's still a lot of opportunity in Luka. That
it reminds me of. We were talking about Giannis early on, right? He eventually got to make the playoffs. Then after you make the playoffs, you got to win a round in the playoffs. Then you got to move towards the finals, and eventually you got to win that title. So Luka, I think, has a little bit of a rope now. No one's expecting him to win the title right now, but to take a step from last year, he should win this series. If he happens to get eliminated in the next series, I think he's still on track. His cards may not actually, do anything because of it because there's just so many of them out there. But as far as Luka goes, I would say that if he wins this series, that's obviously a good thing for him. As far as the trajectory, as where people want to see him. But yeah, man, I mean, what that would mean is the Clippers lost, and what happens there? Clippers lose. What happens? Where do we go? What happens?
Where do we go? Well, there is. What's interesting?
Most
There's
likely,
no market.
Kawhi goes to the Lakers. Kawhi joins the
Lakers. Probably.
So it's Kawhi, AD, and LeBron.
Can you believe that? It could happen.
I believe anything. Of course. I believe it all.
Well, there is no market for Paul George cards. It's really interesting. Who do you know anyone who owns I ran some numbers. Paul George has like one rookie card. He has some RPAs, but the one rookie card, there's like 75 graded and there's like 30 PSA 10s. It's like the Panini Prestige from 2010, 2011. There is no market for Paul George cards. I think Paul George is just hated by the internet and they love making memes saying Pandemic P. I just think Kawhi cards, I think they could dip. I think Kawhi cards could take a hit.
Well, Paul George cards, it would be hard for them to dip any further than they are now. So, StarStock for the playoffs, for the rest of the time. Have you seen anything in the first couple games of these playoffs where you're like, all right, that's a guy I'm going to potentially jump on StarStock? Anything you think potentially happened? I mean, I think you already kind of did one with John Collins. If he's down, that Hawks team has the chops to potentially get past the first round, and he's obviously going to be playing a role in that if they do. I know that's one you mentioned. Anybody else who you've watched? Jaren Jackson Jr. maybe on the Grizzlies, if maybe the Grizzlies get out of this series?
It sounds crazy, but I would take a look at a Giannis card. Because you could get the Giannis. You might be able to get the Giannis card cheap.
Which one? A PSA 10 of his Prism? It's around $2,000 on the site now, which is so beat up compared to the $7 it was.
Right. I like I said, I mean, I've had a good. There's teams that I don't have a good read on. There's teams I do. Like I have a good read on this Bucks team. I knew that they would come in with the revenge factor in mind. I thought that they were going to sweep the Heat. I said that. I think that will give the Cards a boost. But I think they beat this Nets team. I don't know why. Maybe just a hunch. And I think with that, you see his Cards bounce back. And I think it might be interesting to take a look at Giannis cards. Make an offer on one of the cards because not only is it instant ownership and not only is it 5% to sell, there's no tax.
Yep.
It's something that I didn't really.
Yeah.
So
no shipping, it's staying there, right? It's not being shipped anywhere. So I got a question for you, and then I guess we can wrap it up with that. So when it comes to coasters, do you like having like a set of matching coasters, or do you like a similar coaster that has different colors? Because what I'm envisioning is maybe a red, white, and blue, maybe a hyper, maybe a green, maybe a silver, maybe a base, like Tyler Hero PSA coaster set. Because what else are you doing with your Tyler Hero cards now? Does that dude even get in the game? I mean, did he get a Lloyd Christmas haircut and just disappear? What happened to that
guy? Dude, it's tough, man. Like, you want me to really go this route? He got a girlfriend, and he got a hint of publicity. He got this. He became the big thing.
You're blaming his girlfriend?
I'm blaming everything that comes with publicity and being the main, like having all the attention on you.
All right,
it takes a lot. That's a lot, man. Think about it. He's come up. He's been a nobody, right? He wasn't the main guy at Kentucky. He wasn't the main guy, and then all of a sudden he becomes the talk of the internet, man. I don't know if you remember in August. People were like, who is this guy? And with that, this famous Spider-Man line or for famous Uncle. Who's the uncle? What's his name from Spider-Man? Uncle Jack? It's Uncle Jack, I'm pretty sure. With great power comes great responsibility.
I don't know. I'm too busy checking out Aunt May. But only in the recent ones where it's Marissa Tomei. Aunt May in the 1990 Marvel cards is like 112 years old.
With great power comes great responsibility. I mean, it's tough. Like when you have all of that attention from the media, you got a new girlfriend. She's like a huge Instagram influencer presence. I think it just got to his head temporarily. And also sophomore year, we know this, like teams scout you more. They're not caught by surprise. So I think it's a culmination of factors. Guys, don't forget, like, I'm not saying Tyler Hero's Kobe, but like, don't forget Kobe in his rookie season airballed 5 times in one game against the Jazz. So like, you're not defined by your mistakes. You're not defined by one bad season. It's how you rebound. So I would just be holding Tyler Hero. I would just be holding.
I know. Would you buy him? Do you think he's a buy at the price? So you think that, by the way, he's one you can't buy because the pop on those are so huge. His success happened to coincide with the time where everybody was grading everything. So even if he turns his career around and is successful, like, look, Luka is the ceiling. He's never going to become Luka, and look what the population is. And his cards might not be graded as much as the Luka, you know what I mean? So is he tough? Even if he turns it around, the cards might not be the where you want to have your money.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, it's a learning lesson for me because I was so right on Hero, but and this is what makes cards a little bit more challenging than normal markets. That was one of the better plays that I had, right? But also timing, PSA shutting down. There's people who've sent those cards in 20 days who still haven't gotten them back. and they've been through 2 cycles. Not one cycle, Cage. They went through 2 cycles. And because I don't know if you guys remember, in December, all modern cards spiked again. So it wasn't just August and September. There was a modern rush in December too. And it's tough. It's tough. I wouldn't be buying Tyler Hero. I don't see it. I would let him do his thing. I don't think he's a buy at all.
All right, so I like it. Look at Robert Williams stuff. You like him. He's up. You want to take a look at some Giannis cards. You look at John Collins because he was beat up a little bit.
Who are the guys with low expectations with real potential to do something? Giannis has low expectations. If you even just look at the internet, people are questioning if he's the number 1 guy, myself included. How far is this Bucks team going to go? Can he keep shooting 40%? Which, by the way, that's one of the best things about Embiid. Do you know Embiid's free throw percentage? 86%.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive for a big man. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's the difference between the Bucks, being in games decided by 2 points and decided by 8 to 10 points.
Yeah.
So
no lead is safe down the stretch for those guys because he will let a team that keeps it close and let somebody catch up, let somebody get back in the game because he's hitting 1 out of every 2 free throws. That's not good.
I hope that they realize that Giannis doesn't need to get the ball down the stretch. Like Giannis is your guy for the most of the game, but in those final 2 minutes, Giannis should be playing down low and get Drew and Chris Middleton the ball and let them run pick and rolls and get Giannis to the hoop. So he's finishing, he's dunking. Don't put him in vulnerable situations to have the ball in his hands because the defense can be really aggressive with him and they don't care if they foul him because they know that best case scenario is 1 out of 2. So that being said, that's what I'd be looking at. I think the Bucks beat the Nets, but I don't know. It's tough right now. It's a tough market. I'll be honest with you.
I like it. Listen, guys, you know what's not tough? Take advantage of that StarStock, the May promotion that's being run right now. Get your subs in there. They'll pay for your shipping back and get some free money in your account. Throwing in enough of those slabs. I have a stack of 25 that's going out this week. Get them in there and have them there for football season. I'm thinking ahead. Get some football slabs in. Let's go.
But Cage, I mean, let's use case and wrap. This will be 60 seconds, probably less. Yep. Cage has cards at PWCC Vault, right? Yep. He has cards at StarStock. Yep. He's dabbled with Top Shot.
Probstein.
You're not Probstein.
Yeah.
Wharf. Yep. You have all of these strategic, let's call them strategic partners is really a good way to look at it, where you have assets or money or relationships in different places, and it set you up for success. Because if one's not working, you have 4 other options. As opposed to people go put all their eggs in one basket, like this is my consigner. I only use PWCC. I only sell on eBay. I don't think I think you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. I don't think that's a good way to go about it.
Listen, different things, right? Different things have a better use, right? Right now, if I'm selling basketball cards for people who are in the playoffs, right now, StarStock is the way to go. 100%. I don't want to sell them on eBay. I'm just going to get them back unless it happens to be the guy who wins the championship. So, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. StarStock is the way to sell that stuff. And it's better if you're a seller, too, because if you happen to be selling the hot guy, you're only getting 5% on your seller's fees instead of 13% after eBay takes their chunk out of you. So, no brainer.
Love it. There's another episode of Sponsored by StarStock. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll be back with you tomorrow.